Hey guys, welcome to my channel. My name is CarsonLee and I make writing and reading content. Today I'm here to do the stay home reading tag. Even though this tag was originally attached to the reading rush, I'm going to do it anyway, even though the reading rush is over. I will link the original creator, Ariel Bissett, down below, her channel as well as the reading rush channel if you want to go check them out. They're really awesome, and I believe this was a special quarantine edition, but they will still be doing the reading rush in the summer, which is when they usually do it. So if you're interested, they'll be back in the summer to do another round of a readathon. So I'm going to answer the questions, except for the last one, which has to do with the reading rush, just about how my reading has been going staying home during this quarantine. The first question is, how has your reading been going since you've been staying home? And my reading has been above average, but not necessarily as great as I would like it to be. There were a few years ago when I had a lot of TBR books, like a lot. I had stockpiled a good amount of books that were really interesting to me that I hadn't read and I was excited to get to. And then slowly as I went on, I, read them and I stopped buying as many books because I couldn't afford to buy as many books. And at this point I have 4 books that I own that I haven't read yet. So when quarantine started, I had just gone to the library. Literally the day before my local library closed, I had gone. So I had 5 books, I think, from the library. I have read through those. I've reread some books. I have broken my rules a little bit and purchased some ebooks. So I have been reading a lot, but I'm finding it hard to want to read because I am getting down to those last few books that I have on my TBR, and they are a Diana Gabaldon book, which is ginormous if you've ever seen them. She writes the Outlander books. I have a nonfiction book on my TBR, which I do love nonfiction books, but they tend to be a little bit heavier reading, especially during quarantine. And if you didn't know, I'm a senior in college. I'm graduating, well, I would be graduating in May. It's kind of anticlimactic now because there's no ceremony and nothing really happens when I graduated, just get to be done. But I have 2 theses because I have 2 majors and it's taking up a lot of my time. So I'm excited to read that nonfiction book, but it's not what I gravitate towards when I have the free time to read. And then the other 2 books fall into a similar category where they are primary sources. For me, they're Icelandic sagas about Vikings, so stuff that I am interested in. All of these books I want to read, but not right now. Right now I want to read an easy book. So yeah, I have definitely been reading more than I was when I was up at school, but my motivation to read has been lagging in the last couple of weeks. The second question is, where have I been reading at home? And normally I'm either reading in my bed before bed, or I'm reading in the morning in the bath. That's kind of weird. I live in a small house. I share my bedroom with my little sister, and I have fallen into a schedule where I get up early because we have a dog. So I get up early with the dog. My sister and my mom get to sleep in, and I get to do my workout, get up early with the dog, and have a little bit of free time to myself. So occasionally after my workout, I will decide to take a shower and a bath rather than just a straight shower. And I will read in the bath because it's time when I get to be alone and it's a good time to get off your phone. So I do read in the bath a lot. And I would say the only other place that I've been finding myself reading is in my mom's car, which I know I know that sounds weird, but I have been taking the car and going to park in local parking lots and trying to get work done because my house is very loud. And my sister is in high school, so she's still doing work, but my mom is currently not working because of the virus. So she has a lot of free time on her hands, and even though my sister's doing remote learning, she also has a lot of free time on her hands. And so sometimes it's hard to have a quiet space to get reading done or writing or anything like that. So my space, my time in the bath, I reserve for reading. So sometimes I take the car and go somewhere where the internet isn't distracting me and my family's not distracting me, so I can get some of that work done. And I do try to read then as well. Question number 3 is the best book that I have read during isolation, and I had a hard time coming up with my answer for this question, but I think I have to go with The Deadlands by Benjamin Percy. I'll put a picture up right here because I don't have it. It was a library book. And I didn't know what to expect going into it. It's kind of a post-apocalyptic Lewis and Clark retelling. It's really fascinating. There's a boy in my writing class right now who is writing a story about kind of a post-apocalyptic society, fantasy world where there's these like mutants because of radiation, and Benjamin Percy writes about radiation mutants as well in this book, and I didn't know if I was going to super love it, but I gave it a shot and I really did. So I've definitely read other good books during isolation. I read The Lightning Trail. I'll just leave the Amazon links to that book and Benjamin Percy's book down below. But I really did enjoy both of those books. I got them from the library, so I don't have either of them to show you here. But when I was thinking about the best book that I read, The Deadlands was just the first thing that popped into my head, so I had to share it with you guys. The 5th question is, what is my favorite feel-good book? I also had a hard time answering this question. My favorite feel-good book is not a feel-good book. The book that I read most often when I just want to read something that I love is To Kill a Mockingbird by Harper Lee. Not necessarily a feel-good book, but if you're looking for happier books, I would recommend anything by Morgan Matson except for Second Chance Summer. But most of her books tend to be happier contemporaries with really cute friend groups and romances. And I remember, I think it was maybe 2 summers ago, where I reread all of her books that I have read. And I really enjoyed them. They're bigger contemporaries, but you do fly through them. So if you're looking for a feel-good book, those are great. And I also recommend, if you want something where it just puts you in a good mood, puts a smile on your face, go back to some of those old books that you used to read and give those a chance. So I know a lot of people are rereading The Hunger Games right now because of the new book, Suzanne Collins' new book that takes place prior to The Hunger Games, is a prequel, I think. But go back to childhood favorites if you want. You know, Charlotte's Web, Because of Winn-Dixie, To Kill a Mockingbird, for me, is one of those books. But, or even just dabble in middle grade if you've never dabbled in middle grade. Those are really awesome feel-good books where generally you can pretty much be guaranteed that you're going to have a happy ending. And they're more lesson oriented, and I think that's nice now when we're all feeling a little uncertain and feeling like we want someone to tell us it's going to be okay, to watch younger people in books learn lessons about how things are going to be okay, or that they can help things be okay and have control over their lives. It's definitely a feel-good message for people right now. Question number 6 is an author that I want to shout out at this time. And I'm not going to shout out an author necessarily, but I'm going to shout out a podcast of authors. So if you haven't ever listened to the Writing Excuses podcast, I highly recommend that you do. Even if you're not a writer, which I know most of you on this channel are because I make primarily writing content, but if you're coming here because of this tag and you're just meeting me for the first time, Writing Excuses is run by a whole host of authors, and they have guest authors on as well. Brandon Sanderson is on this podcast, which most people know Brandon Sanderson. And this year they have Victoria Schwab as a kind of like a regular guest on the podcast. So if you've never listened to it, go check it out. It's 15 minutes long because you're in a hurry and they're not that smart, which is their tagline. It's so catchy, and I'll give you a little sneak peek into my life. I was a year and a half behind on this podcast when I came home because I had just gotten caught up with school, and before that I had been a regular listener every Monday. And in the last month that I've been home, I have caught up because I listen to it on my walks. It's phenomenal. Those authors are great. They give such great advice and commentary on books, and every podcast they give you a recommendation, a reading recommendation, which is how I found The Lightning Trail, which I have linked down below. I mentioned it as one of my favorite books I read during quarantine. So if you are interested in that and you think that that might be something that you want to check out, I highly encourage that you do, because it's a really fun podcast and I love listening to it. And you can also just search through their backlog. I think they're on season 15 right now, so they have a million different episodes that you can go watch depending on what the topic is, what you're interested in. So yeah, it's really awesome and I highly recommend it. I will leave their podcast link down below as well. And the 7th question is, what is your reading rush TBR? Obviously I'm not going to answer that because I'm not doing the reading rush, and it's after the time that the reading rush was actually going on. But again, like I said, I will leave the reading rush linked down below if you have any interest in readathons. It's a really awesome one, and I do believe that they're having another round this summer. So if you want to go follow them and subscribe to their YouTube channel, then you will get notifications when they host the next reading rush. Those are all of the questions for this tag. Thank you so much for watching my video. Let me know down below what the best book you've read during quarantine is, because I'm definitely looking for new recommendations and I will take it into account. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me today. If you like what you saw and you want more writing and reading content from me, please subscribe down below. I would love to have you guys here, and that's all for today. Bye!